The night before decision eve. Is Lane Kiffin waffling? Is Lane Kiffin potentially going to stay at Ole Miss and reject LSU advances? We're going to be discussing that and a lot more, including LSU Oklahoma, LSU Odyssey Live right now. How's it going, everybody? Leave a like, a share, a subscription if you could, and drop a comment. Tell us what the hell you think is going on. It was a tough week for LSU fans as we had to really kind of ride the grind this week, knowing, oh my God, we got to get to Saturday when he's going to make a decision. Do we still have Kiffin? Do we still have Lane Kiffin? Hearing about potential waffling by Kiffin. Hearing potential, Keith Carter, of course, saying the 80 for Ole Miss, saying we're going to keep him. He's going to stay at Ole Miss. Of course, he's going to say that. There's a lot of bad vibes and a lot of bad attitudes, kind of like just nasty kind of vibes around Oxford, especially the media versus Kiffin. And I'm not saying that's the reason he'll leave. Oh, the media is mean to me. The media doesn't like me, so I'm going. But there's a vibe there that they're kind of like, we're on to you. We know you're leaving, you bastard. Like, tell us to us, look us in the eye and tell us you're going to go. But the way it looks, and if we're going to take Kiffin at his word, Lane Kiffin said after this game, after the Egg Bowl, that he has not made up his mind yet. Lane Kiffin has not made up his mind yet. And then you have moments like this that kind of make you want, like, I mean, can he come back to Ole Miss? Does he want to come back to Ole Miss after stuff like this?
Walk in here, call me a hoe. We'll see how it goes. So you want to walk in here, call me a hoe. We'll see how it
goes. That was Lane Kiffin going at an Ole Miss reporter who he believed called him a hoe. Now, the guy was actually kind of making him, he wasn't calling Lane Kiffin a hoe. He was basically saying, like, are you cheating, kind of a thing. So Lane Kiffin kind of taking things personally, getting crazy here. And Ole Miss's media probably doing the best job that they've done since Kiffin's arrived. They're actually asking the guy tough questions. They're actually going at him hardcore because they know he's about to leave. I don't know how you could see any of this and think this man can stay after all this. Like, even if you stayed and your current players love you for it, you win a championship, everything's great. How can Lane Kiffin recruit the next batch of players and convince them that, yes, he will stay? How can he do it? How can he, this won't happen. I won't cause this huge media circus every 2 seasons. He's got to really face those questions. But Lane Kiffin doesn't at the same time. He doesn't have to face those questions. All he has to do is win games and see what happens here. If Ole Miss are not going to allow him to coach his team for one more game, he's gone. That sound is the bacon and the sausage, Sagey. There's a sausage making that sound. Kiffin, God, we've seen this thing go from Lane Kiffin when this whole thing started, and I thought Lane Kiffin could potentially be like a pipe dream candidate. I didn't really consider that LSU was going to be going down this road. This was before Brian Kelly was fired, but it was heading in that direction. I was told Kiffin looks like he's going to go to Florida. Kiffin looks like he's going to Florida. And I'm like, no, he's not. Like, I just kind of was like, screw Florida. Like, no, he's not going to Florida. Like, who would want to go to Florida? Like, come on. And, I instantly see for a good solid 2 weeks, Florida fans, but worse than that, Florida media, some of the best Florida media members that we have, that we know of, that we know in the wild that exist, who are reporting all of this. Kiffin's going to Florida. Kiffin's going to Florida. Kiffin signed an MOU. Kiffin's gonna stay. Kiffin's gonna stay. Kiffin's gonna abandon Ole Miss and going to Florida. Don't even listen to this LSU talk. He's going to Florida. They were so certain. These people were so certain he was going to Florida. They were like literally betting their lives. They were sounding psychotic. Their obsession with Lane Kiffin was out of this world. And they said some things that they're deleting very quickly as of the last 24 hours, when we found out that officially something a lot of us knew for quite a while here. Florida had no chance to get Lane Kiffin. And just because Layla Kiffin had ties there, it meant nothing. And just because they thought they could turn the media into some just vector of attraction that would get Kiffin to be like, yes, media. Oh. And he would go to Florida, where he would spend the next 5 seasons trying to repair and rebuild the place. He understood, God, that place is a dumpster fire. I will take a step that way and not choose Florida. And so it's stunning to me, though, that you've seen so many Florida people denying that they got this wrong, denying, saying, oh, well, we're going to end up better. We're going to end up so much better without Kiffin. We didn't even want him. LSU and him are drama. They deserve each other. We didn't even want Kiffin. It's so ridiculous. They were literally like salivating over this, 50-year-old man a week ago. Like their whole life hinged on whether he said yes or no to this job offer. And now, oh, we didn't even want him. He's a terrible coach. What a joke. Like, the amount of self-deception you have to go through to get to that place is pretty psychotic. We saw the LSU fan base saw the Florida fan base for what they've really become. They're like the Israel of college football. They don't have any more control. Their control is slipping. They're getting desperate. They're doing crazy, crazy maneuvers just to try and hold on for dear life. They're really flailing and trying to do anything they can to stay relevant. That is what Florida has become. And they knew, oh, if we can get Lane Kiffin. Oh, if we can get Lane Kiffin. They really put everything in that box, in that basket, and said, we have to get Lane Kiffin. Because if we just get Lane Kiffin, all of our problems will be solved. But the truth is, Lane Kiffin would have spent 5 years there, maybe 1 year that, maybe they'd be like 10-2, 9-3, maybe squeak into a playoff and lose, be one and done or something like that. Have 1 or 2, stellar recruits, because that's what Kiffin does. But the rot that is at the core of that program, Florida, you're not going to be able to fix. And that football program is in deep shit. And when you got Todd Golden over there winning national championships and not a lot else in his way on campus as far as taking that funding, he's going to be the king of that purse. So it's just it would be a very dumb move if Kiffin had gone there, and he didn't. He's I'm not going to do this. I'm not going that direction. How the Florida people got this so wrong, I'm stunned, because they were certain. I mean, I've only seen a handful of people say, Kiffin's going to LSU 100%. We got him, I've only seen a few people saying that type of stuff. But Florida, my God, they were certain. They were dead certain we're getting this guy. They were like ready to sign over their sister. They were so like beholden to the curse of their nefarious deeds, their misplaced dreams. And Florida, this is exactly what Florida has done for so long. Continued to fall off the cliff, a complete dissension, a complete fall from grace from what they once were. And it's really quite troubling to watch, because as an LSU fan, I want to see a good Florida team. I want to play a good Florida team, right? And we're still getting those games every once in a while. They're still really good. Florida is always going to give LSU a great game. It's always going to be an entertaining game. But the actual Florida teams have been shit for so long now. It is really stunning to me. We can really go back, way back, and there's so many missteps they've taken as a program, okay? And they really tried to optimize their media to like go get Kiffin for him. And that was never going to work. That was never going to work. And Lane Kiffin, at this point, it looks about 70-30, 80-20. LSU 80. We can get you some Sprite, Seiji. It really is looking like LSU 80, staying at Ole Miss 20. I would have to put staying at Ole Miss on the smaller side of the odds here, because everything is really geared towards him leaving. I mean, that's just so obvious. That's been obvious to everyone in America, right? That he seems to be on the precipice of being out that door. But I think if Ole Miss is able to play in the SEC championship game, I think that complicates things. I think that delays things further. I think it complicates things. And as we know, Lane Kiffin is an emotional, waffling kind of guy where he can be led into certain different directions. It is very strange to know what is going to influence this decision at the final hurdle, because you heard Lane Kiffin say he missed his dad and he wished he had his dad, the great legendary Monty Kiffin, defensive coordinator for the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that absolute dominant defensive freak force of John Lynch, Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber. I mean, the list goes on of Donnie Abraham. My God, so many unbelievable. Derek Brooks. Man, that defense was so fun to watch. And I'm only talking about like the first string or second string guys. Like this defense was voluminously great. Voluminously great. And Monty Kiffin is the guy who built all that. And he's kind of a steady hand that Lane could look to. And it was kind of sad to hear him say that in the press conference. Basically, fuck all you. I wish my dad was here. I'm sick of all this bullshit. You're cornering me with all these questions I don't want to answer. I've gotten myself into this shit. Oh, why did I get myself into this crap? I wish my dad was here to give me advice. And it was a very human moment. It's why people love Lane Kiffin. He's the most human head coach we've got out there. But this situation is getting to a point where we're done with it. We are sick of this, right? LSU absolutely needs resolution now. And LSU cannot be second here. He cannot be staying at Ole Miss because there are no good options. Second options behind Lane Kiffin, at least in my opinion. Can anyone really sell me in the comment section, really sell me on one of those other options? I love the Lane Kiffin hire. I don't like the money. You're going to be spending $250 million, likely maybe even more, on everything that's going to take to make that a successful win now type of project. And that's a second straight $100 million head coach you're hiring at LSU. There's something that's wild about that needs to be kind of like, we did a show where we kind of paused and kind of was like, shit, we need to take stock of this. LSU cannot screw this up again. We cannot hire the wrong guy again. We cannot dance in the lily fields for another 5 years. You waste another 5 years of talent coming to LSU. You waste another 5 years kind of just fucking around in the wilderness. You are 5 years more away from your brand, further away from your brand, further away from, the type of winning stages that people still remember for LSU. That means you're 5 years away from maximizing these great players, getting the best out of them, not just a few individuals, but what they can do collectively as a team. You don't get this hire right. That's 5 years more where everything that you have worked for to make LSU into one of, if not the premier college football programs in the country, especially now when you've got no Nick Saban, no Alabama juggernaut. There is a major vacuum that's been there. There's been 3 straight weaker seasons for college football where you've had Jim Harbaugh's Michigan winning a championship. You had a 2-loss Ohio State team who even lost to a really shitty 500 record Michigan, but were able to pull it off and make it come together and do it. You've had multiple seasons where the champion wasn't all too impressive. And you wasted the Jaden Daniels year. You should have made the college football playoff, but you also wasted 2024 when you literally could have had 3 losses and still made the playoff. And you blew that scenario. So my point is you have to hit on this hire, and then we have to put pressure on this hire the second they're in there. It can't be, all right, Kiffin, kind of just go off and do your thing for 10 years. Results now. Brian Kelly, we gave him that giant contract. We gave him all that time, and we let him know it. We made sure we pounded into his skull. We're going to be patient with you, Brian. We're going to be patient with you, BK. You deserve all the time in the world to get this right. But no, not that money. And there needs to be stronger language to protect LSU in the future with these contracts. You cannot be paying another head coach $50 million to fuck off. You can't do it. And if you're, I mean, like LSU can do it. That's what's sick. LSU has the money that they can do it, actually. But when that happens, costs are going to be recouped at some point. The prices for tickets, the prices for jerseys, the prices for everything, prices for tuition, all are going to skyrocket. How well does that sit with you that to pay for all of this, which is going to be a grand project at LSU, the prices are going to be skyrocketing? Because someone is going to need to get their costs recouped in some way. I don't know. I just, with all Kiffin'S Eve, tomorrow's the day where Kiffin's going to supposedly give his decision on where he's going, what's he going to do? Just like, hey, Chris Lowe, my man, here's the news. Give it to Ross Dellinger too. Like, what is this going to be? Of course, those guys are in Oxford, hanging out in Kiffin's bushes. So, I mean, it's a weird situation. It's possibly the weirdest coaching search in college football history. And of course, LSU is a part of it. Of course, LSU would have to be a part of it. That's just how it goes. I don't know. I know some people are pissed off at me for liking Frank Wilson, because there's been a growing contingent of anti-Frank people just because we've lost some games. It's like, or 13-10, wins. Of course. How good did you think Frank was going to do? Do you think we were supposed to be beating everyone 45-10? Like, I don't know. People are just getting a little extreme, but I love Lane Kiffin. I love the idea of him coming to LSU. But as we said in our show yesterday, yesterday was Thanksgiving. I think it was Wednesday. As I said in that show, guys, the thing I don't like here, the thing I don't like about hiring Lane Kiffin is this. If you hire Lane Kiffin, I have heard this, and I'm sure LSU, Lane Kiffin are both. I can almost bet on this that Kiffin is coming to LSU, right? I can almost just about break that news, but because of the subject, because of the person, until I really get that from like a source that I'm like, take that to the bank. And we've gotten that from some good sources, but just not enough. We just don't have enough to feel comfortable to run with it. I think that's going to happen, right? But there's some situations where things could go askew and maybe he stays at Ole Miss. I just don't see it. I see him going to LSU. But one thing that really bothers me if he goes to LSU, from what I've heard, this is what I've heard, and I think maybe other people have been talking to this source as well, and so I think you may have heard this from somewhere else as well. Maybe you've heard this on another podcast. Maybe you've read this somewhere. I'm not sure, but this is what I've been told, and you can kind of cross your I's, dot your T's, and kind of compare notes on that. Pattern recognition, as I call it. But if Kiffin is hired by LSU, I have been told that he would want to bring Billy Glasscock, his general manager, who's at Ole Miss, which would mean the future of Austin Thomas goes up in the air. That would be a huge miss to have Austin Thomas gone. And you don't have Scott Woodward there anymore to protect and to keep Austin Thomas either. That sucks. 2, Kiffin would want to bring in his DB's coach and Pete Golding as defensive coordinator. So you're talking about losing not only Blake Baker, but Corey Raymond, someone no one is expecting Kiffin to get rid of on his staff. He would be almost everything but set to get rid of him. You know, like that would be highly likely that he would be getting rid of Corey Raymond. And that just can't happen. You cannot get rid of Corey Raymond after he's come back in and done this and proven this again. I mean, that just can't. You can't come in and just get rid of Corey Raymond for whatever waffled asshole you have at Ole Miss. I don't care. He is not going to compare to Corey Raymond. You probably are going to lose Blake Baker anyway to Tulane if John Sumrall leaves, because Blake Baker is going to get that head coaching offer. So bringing over Pete Golding doesn't sting as much as, but if Baker is going to stay, and you're going to I'd rather have Pete Golding than Blake Baker. That's stupid. And that is something that I feel Lane Kiffin would do. I feel like Lane Kiffin would decide to keep Pete Golding over Blake Baker, even if he had the option to keep Blake Baker. So my point is, I do not want LSU to get softer on defense as they get stronger on offense with this Kiffin hire. You've got some great coaches on the defensive side of the ball that you've got to keep at LSU. Corey Raymond, Kevin Peoples. If you can, in a perfect world, Blake Baker. If you can't, you can bring over Pete Golding. It's not going to hurt me too much. But it might cause a few players that are very key to LSU to not come back next season if you don't have Blake Baker returning. So it's just, there's certain situations where it's not going to be as seamless and as perfect as you thought. Maybe Kiffin doesn't even retain Frank Wilson. He loves his running backs coach there at Ole Miss. There's talk of some dirt between him and Frank. I don't know how true that is. Maybe it's not. I was going to ask a few of the subjects involved in that story to kind of, hey, did this happen, etc. But you're going to then, if you hire Lane Kiffin, great hire. But then if you're going to lose Austin Thomas, Frank Wilson, Blake Baker, Corey Raymond, Kevin Peoples, all in one fell swoop, that's a deal that sucks, in my opinion. That's something that doesn't interest me that much. I cannot sacrifice Corey Raymond. Can't. He's come back and rebuilt what you needed at DB, and you're going to get rid of him instantly? Stupid. I don't care what the dude has done at Ole Miss. I don't care. So there's some questions about changes that would be made. But I think our fan base is so ramped up to end this whole saga, to get to the end of this whole thing, that I think you guys would be fine with it. I think maybe the majority of you, if you could see the slow train coming, you'd probably be like, okay, screw that. I don't want to get rid of Corey Raymond. I don't want to get rid of Frank, whatever. But this is going to happen where Lane Kiffin comes in. There's going to be massive changes. And a lot of them, you're like, sweet, I'm fine with that. Get rid of Brad Davis. Get rid of Cortez Hankins. Oh, shit. Why are we getting rid of Corey Raymond? What the hell is that? Happens every time with these new coaches coming in. They want their own people. They want complete control, but I think it's a very dumb decision of Lane Kiffin if he comes to LSU and then first thing he's going to do is get rid of a guy like Corey Raymond on his staff or Kevin Peoples. You need to retain these guys. I don't care who hired them or whatever that does to the ego or whatever. Keep these guys on the staff. Now, I've been told from some people behind the scenes that anyone saying that Kiffin was a done deal to LSU, done deal, doesn't know what they're talking about. So that's take that for what you were, for what it's worth or what you want to think it's worth. But I think that's some good advice. Is hey, LSU are in a great position here, and it looks like Kiffin might really be looking like LSU's next head coach. But is it 100% done? You cannot say that in college football coaching searches, as I found out the hard way. I found this out the hard way, this super hard way. So you can never assume, you can never just go, oh, done, sweet. Because there's always another wheel being turned by an agent. Coach, you think you're going to Florida? Hey, guess what? Holy shit. You know how Florida just accepted that $55 million thing, and we're getting, you're packing going to Gainesville? Guess what? Baton Rouge just countered that offer with 75 more million. You're the highest paid coach in college football history, you mother. There's always a Jimmy Sexton move to be made. But here's one thing I will say. I was also told that, yes, Kiffin has been speaking to mentors, and most of those mentors are telling him, go to LSU. Pete Carroll told him to go to LSU. Nick Saban, where do you think he told him to go? First, he probably said to go fuck yourself, but then he probably said, Lane, I love you. Go to Baton Rouge. So, I mean, Lane Kiffin is in a spot where it's hard to know, hard to predict, impossible to say if the guy might change his mind 10 seconds before the announcement. He already, sets it all up with Chris Lowe or whatever, and then, completely screws with Chris Lowe. So Chris Lowe says he's going to stay at Ole Miss, and then he goes, psych, and pulls out some LSU hat. Like, I could see it. We're in the silliest season of all, and the silliest coaching search in silly season history. I mean, it's been so silly, it's psycho silly. All right, y'all. Well, it appears we will have to wait until tomorrow to get the news. I'm sure it will leak earlier than that. Maybe LSU Odyssey leaks it. Maybe LSU Odyssey breaks this story. Who knows? But I think whatever is reported, I think just wait until this guy like verbally says it. Like until he says I'm gonna be the LSU head coach and walks up on that podium, I wouldn't trust it like anything. Like because there's always gonna be something, a counter offer. Ole Miss is desperate to keep him, but they don't want to do this where they look like a bitch, you know. So it's what? You drinking your Sprite?
Yep. I'll show you what's this. We'll
Oh my gosh, is this Leo the truck?
have popcorn
Huh?
to eat.
They're eating popcorn?
Yeah.
That sounds very good. Popcorn sounds damn good.
Should we make some yummy popcorn?
You want to make popcorn?
Yep.
Let's see if we got some. All right, guys. I'm off to make some popcorn to my boy. Love you all. Tomorrow, we're about to find out who will be LSU's next head coach. Strap in and buckle up because I think we might have something for all you news junkies in the middle of the night tonight. I think there might be a little surprise for all of you LSU diehard news junkies who just love a midnight scoop, especially an accurate one, that can give you some info and news on where Lane Kiffin is going ahead of everyone else. I think we'll have something like that for you guys on LSUOdyssey.com. Stay tuned. Love you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the show. We will be previewing the Oklahoma game as well coming up here. Thank you all, and hopefully you join us for our second show of our double feature.